Welcome to the What to Play podcast. I'm your host, Jacob. Lucas could not be here this week because he had prior commitments, so I'm doing it by myself this week. It doesn't matter. We made it work last week. We'll make it work this week. We'll make it work next week if we have to. Let's talk about week one, and let's specify what happened. Let's begin with the Patriots, who they play the Raiders, and their offense was not good. Their pass defense was not good. Their run defense was actually pretty good. This is a process. This is always going to be a process. This is a steep learning curve for everybody. And we saw this. I asked Lucas, what did he think about this defense? He said our rush defense was really good. Our pass defense was not good. In fact, what he said, he's like, they obviously missed Christian Gonzalez. That was the talented cornerback who I believe his third year in the league. He just didn't play. He was injured, didn't play. You lose a guy like that, no matter who it is, if he's a starter and he knows exactly what he's supposed to do, and you don't have that guy, it's problematic. When I asked him how his run defense was, he said the run defense was very good, but we clearly lacked in pass defense because of missing Gonzalez. He says it's hard to judge how the coaching staff operated because it's week one, but there was a lot of pre-snap penalties. You're okay with having the pre-snap penalties in the beginning of the year because it's week one. Everyone's a little nervous. They don't know how this is going to go. It's a new system. It's a new coach. It's new everything. It's going to take some time to adjust. Again, like you're bringing in players that you haven't played with before, you haven't coached before. That's a learning curve. But in the case of the Patriots, it's not just the offensive line, the offense as a whole. It's not just the defensive line and the defense as a whole. It's a whole new coaching staff. Even though Josh McDaniels has been there before, and this is his third time going at this position, he's never coached Drake May before. He doesn't know how to coach him. So he's trying to figure that out. Drake May is trying to learn Josh McDaniels. He's trying to learn the language of Josh McDaniels. That's something that needs to happen. To learn the language of Josh McDaniels is something that is new to Drake May. It's a learning process. Just like the whole offensive line or the entire wide receiving core, the entire running back core, they are learning Josh McDaniels' system, his language, how to respond to that. It's a learning process. It needs to be adjusted. Defense, same thing. And on top of all that, you have to learn the language of Vrabel, of what Mike Vrabel wants to do. So that's a whole different process. So it's hard enough to play a game in the NFL, but we have to learn a whole new system with different coaches, and you have a second-year quarterback back there. He's got to trust what he's doing. When I asked I asked Lucas how Drake May played. He said, listen, Drake did not play well. He was jumpy. He was a little skittish, yet it is only week one. I agree. You get a little antsy when it's week one. You're also learning a whole new system. You're learning a whole new system that you have to adjust to. Even though it's not like you haven't learned the system because you've had him for a couple months. You're now asked to put it in a game situation with actual people watching and the whole world watching on TV. It's a very challenging task. And when you have a guy it's obvious he has to improve. He's still a young player. Let him improve every single day. When I asked Lucas about how can Drake May improve, he says Drake May has to improve. His decision making has to improve, which it's not easy to do that. But the Josh McDaniels system does allow you to use motion so you can identify what's going on. That's why motion's so key for a young player. Because if you just have guys who stand there and then snap the ball, it's hard for a 10-year vet to learn what the guy's doing. Because he's not moving, and he has to figure out what that defense is doing. With Drake May, he's a second-year player. He hasn't played a full season yet. Asking him to identify what a defense is doing when you have no motion is impossible. That does not mean he doesn't need to know what the receiver is doing. It just means he has to identify what the defense is doing. That's why motion helps. If the motion from his wide receiver helps him do that to where he can move the guy and then the guy can go into his route, he can identify if it's man or zone. That's the important part. He still has to trust what he sees, read what he sees, and immediately do it. It has to be second nature to him, which might not happen yet, but he needs to be able to do that to be an effective quarterback. You can't just stare at him down and then throw it. He's just got to trust it that, okay, there's going to be a spot there, throw it. Trust my receiver's going to get there. That's what he's got to do. He can't stare his receiver down. Just trust your receiver's going to be there, throw it, and if you really have that understanding where you can throw it right where you're supposed to be, you're going to make some good plays in this league. When I asked Lucas what his player of the game was and who he was, he said that's probably Keyshawn Boutte. That's the wide receiver. He had 100+ yards in the game. He was the reason that they were even in that game. Like, Drake May did not play well. The run game was not good on offense. They only had their leading rusher at 27 yards, 5 carries, 27 yards. That's a good average, but you need to run the ball more opportunities. Who cares whoever the running back is? If it's Stevens, if it's Henderson, whoever it is needs to run the ball. Gibson or whoever needs to run the ball. They need to run the ball. They gotta just go down the field and just run the football, run the football, run the football. And that's what they gotta do. I don't know if they are built to do that as of yet, but they need to do it. Boutte, like I said, Boutte had 100 yards receiving. That's a good job by him. You can't turn the ball over. You cannot have interceptions if you're Drake May. You got to win the turnover battle, but you got to pound the rock. You got to go right down the field. I guess Hank Stram used to say, just matriculate the ball down the field. Just let's keep matriculating the ball down the field, boys. Let's go. Let's just keep moving the ball. That's all he's asking him to do. Matriculate the ball down the field. Just move the ball down the field and don't turn the ball over. Don't have bad, unnecessary plays. Just move the ball down the field, score in the red area. You can't afford to miss field goals in that situation. You got to be better. And as a team, you got to be better. For week 2, Lucas has the Patriots winning. I have the Dolphins winning. But I do think in week 2, we will see a massive improvement, even though the score won't say it for the Patriots that much, in my opinion. The improvement we'll see will be better. And I think that's what's important. I got the Dolphins winning this game 28-17. Not because I like what the Dolphins did against the Colts. They were bad against the Colts. But I think if Christian Gonzalez does not play, it's going to be so much harder for the Patriots defense to keep up with Waddle, with Hill, even this ground attack with Achane or anyone. Even Tua can run the ball a little bit. And I think you have to expect the Dolphins to be better in week 2 than they were in week 1. Because they were embarrassed. I really do believe they were embarrassed. You don't lose by that much. They lost by, you got to think about it, they lost by 25. That's bad. They lost by 25, 26 points. You can't be that bad. You lose the game 24, 25, 26 points. That's embarrassing. In a week 1, that's embarrassing. Daniel Jones turned into prime Danny Marino. Or insert Hall of Fame quarterback here because he was just dicing up the Dolphins defense. The Dolphins have to be better. I don't know if the Patriots pass coverage defense will be better, especially with that kind of speed that the Dolphins have, but I do think it'll be a really good game. I think the Dolphins bounce back. I think the Patriots will look better in week 2. I just think it's going to be a learning curve that everyone on the Patriots team has to learn, and it's a steep learning curve. So let's see what happens. For the Cowboys, they also lost in week 1, 24-20. in a game that they were in. And first of all, great job by Schottenheimer. He was not a liability as the coach. He was not. He was in a good position. He actually did good timely timeouts in a way. His situational awareness was good. He called timeouts when he needed to. He allowed Dak to deal. And even though the Dak Prescott numbers don't look great, he only had 180 yards. He had no touchdowns. He had no picks, but he only had 188 yards. He was 21 of 34. He was not perfect. But if you actually look, his ball placement was good. They had great motion on the offense, so he could identify what the Eagles and Vic Fangio were trying to do. The offensive line actually did protect him. They had a great run game, even though they only had like 100. They had about 300 yards of offense. They had about 120 yards on the ground. They were good. They were really good in the run game. It wasn't. Don't get me wrong. You're not gonna have a 100-yard rusher. I think any game this year. I just don't think you'll do that unless you do play a Jaden. You do play your young running backs at some point. You have to at some point. But you did have a nice long run by Miles Sanders. Yes, he turned the ball over, but you have to be better. You have to be better. I don't think with what Javonte Williams brings and what Miles Sanders brings, you're going to have a 100-yard rusher between those two guys. But you will have a good enough offense, I think, and you'll have a consistent one. That's what I think Cowboys fans are really intrigued by. They just want to see a good run game. They don't care if the guy has 100 plus yards. They don't care. They care about if they can have a run game where they can run the ball when they need to and when they want. Can they do that? And if they can do that, that's what's going to benefit them. That was the issue under the years of McCarthy and even at the few years of Garrett. They just couldn't run the ball the same way. They couldn't run the ball when they wanted to. They couldn't run the ball when they needed to. That was the problem. And now you played in that game against Philadelphia, but you had a guy like Jalen Carter who wasn't playing, and you took advantage of it. You ran the football. You ran it well. When you needed to run the football, you were not as good. So you need to be better on that run. But other than that, you ran the ball well. You ran the ball well. That besides that turnover, that fumble from Miles Sanders, you ran the ball well. You just got to be better. You just have to be better at the end of the day. You just got to get better. And this offensive line will get better. They actually played really well, I thought. They protected Dak well. They didn't give up a sack, though he was pressured quite a bit. He was able to avoid the sacks and make a good play. Like I said before, they got to get George Pickens more involved. They have to get George Pickens more involved. They got to help him out this offense. It will help out Dak. Just continue to build that chemistry. Get George Pickens the ball. Even if it's deep balls, short game, whatever you got to do what you got to do. Get this ball to George Pickens because he's electric when he has the ball. You got two wide receivers in Pickens and Lamb that are great after the catch. So let them get the opportunities that they need. So get them the football. But I do think the way they played, they were good. And you also have to understand, they had a lot of drops from CD Lamb. CD Lamb had 3 drops. You could almost count 4. He had that one on the slant where the ball was low, but he didn't catch it. He didn't catch it. There was another one that was deflected that he almost caught, which wasn't a drop, but I do think it's noteworthy. He dropped 2 that hit him in the hands, including one that hit him right in the breadbasket. He dropped a 4th down play where he ends up jumping for it, leaping for it forward, and he just doesn't bring it in. So you have that one. So those were some plays he missed. Jake Ferguson had 25 yards receiving, but he had a couple plays where he could have had 2 touchdowns, and he dropped both. He dropped both of them. One, I know he got hit in the head, defenseless receiver. I get it. But there was one where he's running the seam and Zach Bond is right behind him. If he jumps into Zach Bond, it's a penalty on Zach Bond because he's trying to reach for the ball. As long as you reach for the ball and jump into Zach Bond, you're fine. That's a penalty, and that puts the ball on the 1 yard line. And then you don't have that fumble by Miles Sanders. You don't have that penalty by George Pickens. You don't have that fumble by Miles Sanders. But you got to be able to do those things. Instead, he didn't, and that made that ball so much harder to catch, and you don't get the penalty. So you got two of those things that have to be organized by Jake Ferguson, and CD Lamb has to be better. Which, again, the likelihood of him dropping balls that hit him in the chest or hit him in the hands like that, the football, that's not very likely. It just happened. He has to be better. And he took a lot of steps forward. He went in on Friday into the facility. He didn't have to. He did, and he went and caught footballs off the juggling machine. You don't do that. You don't catch the football off the juggling machine if you have a great game. You do that when you say, I didn't play well. I got to get these things in. I got to get these sessions in. So the next time we play, no matter who we play better. The defense, I thought the pass defense was really good. I thought their coverage was really good. Like I said before, the Jahan Dotson 51-yard catch, Jair's got to get his head around, and he's got to play the ball. Other than that, you did a really good job. You kept Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown pretty much off the board for the entire game. That's good. You did a good job there. You got to continue to do that. You got to find a way also to stop this ground game more consistently. You got better as the game went along, but in the first half, you were not very good. You got to be better. You'll have this opportunity to try some stuff this week, but you got to be better. You got to dominate the line of scrimmage, which I will say, by the way, they did a nice job of in the game against Philadelphia. I was impressed with that. They didn't really get pushed off the line. They really did a good job in limiting the big runs. There was a couple of them, but again, you're facing Saquon. It's not going to be easy. You're facing Saquon. As long as you can limit those runs, and you did a good job in limiting Saquon Barkley at 60 yards. So you did a good job there. You just got to be better on those third down situations. You got to force more punts, and you got to avoid those penalties. Just avoid penalties as much as you can. They were very good. They were very efficient. You got to be better. And going back to the offense quickly, the offense cannot die after halftime. You have to start fast in the first half and start fast in the second half. It's the only way you'll be a good enough team is your offense has to be better in the start of the first and in the start of the second half. And continue that through the whole half and the whole game. Like I said before, you got to be able to run the football, which will help in those situations. I was actually kind of surprised they didn't play Jaden Blue at all. They inactivated him, which was surprising to me, but they did. So I wonder if they do that again. We'll see what happens. I hope not. I want to see him play. But you gotta find a better, faster ability to score. You gotta score better. You gotta be better in the red zone, which you were good in the red zone. You just gotta score more times. You gotta be better in the red zone because you're gonna struggle against these good teams. You play a really good team every week. That's the way this works in the NFL. Doesn't matter who you play, they're a good team. You just gotta keep that in your mind. So when you actually face a good team, a great team, or anything like that, you get that in your mind and say, this is a good team. We gotta play our best every single week. Now, you play the Giants, who did not have a great performance. They are starting Russell Wilson again. That is the plan. That's what Brian Dable said. When he didn't say it on Sunday, it was kind of surprising. He said it on Monday, but it still created that doubt of kind of thing. But they didn't play well. Yeah, they lost the game 21-6, but they didn't play well. He didn't play well. That offense didn't play well. Malik Neighbors was frustrated. The run game wasn't very good. Scatterboo was the one guy who did anything in the run game, and he had two nice plays, and that was it. He had a great pass block when he was blocking pass protection, but that was it. He didn't do really anything. So there's concerns from that perspective. They're going to get better. They have to be better in the next week. Andrew Thomas, the left tackle, who's a good football player, did not play. It's kind of iffy if he will or will not, because he has that foot issue. We'll see. It's going to go down to the wire. If he doesn't play, it's an advantage for the Cowboys' defensive line, especially in the pass rush game, which they did get pressured. They pressured about 40% against the Eagles, and that's with Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. Without Andrew Thomas, you should be able to get more pressure. If it's Jordan Hudson who has to play left tackle again, you will get more pressure. The thing for the Cowboy offensive line they have to worry about is defensive line of the Giants. They're really good. Brian Burns was really good in that Commanders game. Kayvon Thibodeau was making some pressures happen. Abdul Carter, the outstanding rookie, he had half a sack. They were doing some good things, and they did get pressure on the Commanders. You have to be better as an offensive line to take them out of the game, run the ball better. I expect Dexter Lawrence to be on Tyler Booker because he's the rookie and that's the veteran. They're going to go right at it. I would expect it because that's going to be like two bulls in the china shop. You're just hoping for the best. You're just hoping that the damage is limited as much as possible. But that's going to be the matchup. It's going to be, and for all you, that's what the Cowboys matchups are going to have to be. Cowboys offensive line versus the other team's defensive line, and the Cowboys defensive line versus the other team's offensive line. That's what they have to win every week if they want a good run game, no matter if it's Jaden Blue, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Phil Maffa, whoever it is, has to be better. Has to be better. And I think that's what the Cowboys are looking for. For the score of this game, I have the Cowboys winning. It will be a game that's going to be frustrating, I think, for the Giants. I have the Cowboys winning 20. Let me know in the comments who you have winning this week and what are your score predictions for the Patriots and Cowboys. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Ebert. Out.